movements at the moment is to get more women onto boards of directors. And interestingly, I have an article about this, about what they're trying to do in Europe, and Angela Merkel has said that she's absolutely incensed that in Germany the number of women on boards has decreased over the last 5 years, and she's talked about giving an ultimatum like do something in a year or we will legislate. So in Europe there are companies really actively looking for bringing more women onto boards. And there's an article about, and it has photographs of old women with white hair, smoking cigars, sitting in high-back chairs, around a big glossy table playing golf. And it's almost like a head count. They're talking about a head count, like getting women in, but having them play the man's game again. Surely we need to get in there and be the women and be the feminine.
Yes. And
bring that feminine approach to boards. And we're not going to do that as one or two. We have to be there in quantity. So how is it that more women can get themselves into a position where they can bring their life and business experience, so they can get onto a board in sufficient quantity and be there and say, I'm here and I'd like to speak for the feminine, I'd like to make a different contribution. How do you think we can accelerate that?
I think a couple of things, and you've raised some good points. The Scandinavian countries have actually legislated that about 30 to 40% of their boards need to be made up of women. And so they're actually searching for the women that actually can be there in their own right, and bring the feminine. Now, most boards, including Australia and America, have what's called let's get the woman on the board so that we can tick it off our list.
Tick it off the box.
We do have women on board because we've got one woman. What's your problem? Now, the sad thing about the notion of boards is that women just don't feel confident enough. The self-esteem, the notion that I can believe that I can do it is missing at that level. Anything below that, they're absolutely fine. The other thing is self-efficacy, and that notion is, can I do the job that they want me to do very well? And the answer is yes. Women have done it. They've been there, they've done it. So again, it's that notion of, can I do the job well? And you'll ask other men and they will say, absolutely, she's done a great job. Now, what needs to be accelerated is the conversations. People need to have more conversations and say, how can we make a difference? And the difference is at the water cooler, in the coffee room, in the canteen, over lunch, meeting like this. So we need to say, what can we do to make just one change this week?
What can we do to make a change?
And which person in the senior management can we target? Who can we actually make an appointment with and say, this is what we'd like to make some changes in? But we don't do that. We think they're too far away, or we can't approach them. The thing is, their door is always open. And we need to have the courage to say, I believe, you believe, let's do it together.
That's so great, because it reminds me when I was meeting Dr. Ryan Eisler last year. She said, and it really has stuck with me, and I can almost see the words, women need to change the conversation.
Yes.
We need to change. We need to have conversations, and we need to change the conversation. And also, South African Women in Dialogue, as a group of women in dialogue, really have brought massive change in South Africa, because when the South African government was wanting to be re-elected in, vote for us was the instruction through their husbands, and they said, you're not going to get our vote unless you tell us where you stand on our priorities. And they had priorities to talk.
Exactly.
They discussed them. They were in dialogue. And I think that's what we're missing. So you're right. We need to have conversations. We need to have new conversations.
New conversations. That's the key.
Yeah.
We can't talk about lipsticks anymore. We can't talk about shoes anymore. I think women need to say, we need to talk about how can we change our organisations. What do we need to do? There are people suffering out there. There are people who can't afford to do what they would like to do. What can we do to help them? And I think one person who's really done this well is Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
She has used her positional power to bring about change in terms of turning people into angels for organisations, angels for the poor, angels for women. So she's created a lot of things like that. And the important thing is, what do we need to do now? And that is, we need to have new conversations. That's a key word.
Yeah.
And I like to throw in the word transforming conversations.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about confidence, because I host women's gatherings all over the world, and we're having these conversations. They are really beautiful, and there's two levels to the conversation. There's one, what can I do as a leader in a large and global sense, because some women do work internationally in a big way,
Yeah.
and other women feel, well, I'm only working. I don't really have any influence. Here's my family, my community. But those are important conversations about what we can do differently in our families,
Yes.
in bringing up our children and with other families around our community. So we can work at all levels. It's not about playing only playing a big game. It's playing a big role in the small game,
Indeed,
isn't it?
Indeed. Margaret Mead, who is probably one of the world's most well-known anthropologists, and back in the 1960s she said, it is the small bunch of committed people at the grassroots that bring about the biggest change.
Yeah.
Everybody else at the top just react to the change, but it's the people at the bottom that actually bring about change. And I think that's what we need to embrace, is that you and I can actually make a difference. Now, there's an interesting saying that if all of us picked up a piece of paper off the streets, we'd have the cleanest streets.
Yeah.
Now, it's only one piece of paper, one person. And I think women need to say, we're together, what can we do this week?
Yeah.
What can we target? What can we bring about? And again, it's all about the power of one.
The power of one, and getting together. It's women gathering, having conversations.
Yeah. And I think the power is, now is the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time. Unprecedented in history in terms of where people are going, what they're doing. They're looking for answers. They're looking for new ideas. I know women have them. I see it all the time.
Debbie, thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
That's really inspiring. So I hope you've been inspired by our conversation today, and take away the notion that it's, at its simplest level, it's having transformative conversations between ourselves and connecting. And thank you for listening to my blog. Bye. How's that?